Hello everybody, welcome to Marked Reviews. I'm Mark, and today we're going to be reviewing the ORDRO SW16 smartwatch from gearbest.com. I'm also going to compare this watch because it has the same specs as another device that I happen to have picked up recently, which I plan to review, which is the Alcatel Pixie 3 and then in brackets 4.0. The specs of these two devices are almost identical, and I thought it would be an interesting comparison to see the performance differences between two devices that are supposed to have the same specs. As I wanted to see whether the manufacturers from a pretty well known now Chinese brand has been established on the market as a company for over 10 years versus a Chinese brand that I personally have never heard of and only found through gearbest.com. I want to see if there's performance loss or gain in either device, and which one is better when you take a $40 Australian smartphone versus a $100 Australian smartwatch. So let's go ahead with the review. Bear with me, it is my first one ever. I have never posted a video on the internet or on YouTube for that matter, or done a review of any kind. It's very difficult. It's a lot harder than it seems, so bear with me, and hopefully my future ones will be much better. Feel free to leave comments down the bottom and requests about the product or anything that I might have answers for that you might have questions to ask. So let's get started, and we're going to go ahead right now and we're going to look at my video that I made just the other night of me unboxing the device and the components inside the box. And then I'll continue with a video of me using the device, showing you its features, showing you things you can do with the device, and showing you what I thought was quite an impressive feature is the ability to play Minion Rush on a phone with a screen of 240 by 240 pixels. So let's go ahead and look at the ORDRO SW16.
Alright, let's start by opening this bad boy up. And have a look at the contents. One adapter, Australia. One maybe resealed box, silver, okay condition, brand name. Screen protector. Not sure which one's the power key. Battery may not be in it. It's definitely not got any life in it. Pretty neat looking charger with magnetic base. Don't even see that. But and the welcome manual. Screwdriver. Ah, that would be why. Should always check that before I start doing these videos. But you can only do the opening one once. 600 milliamp battery. Pretty good size. And that's the opening. Shortly move on to my product test. Okay, so let's just run over some specs of the ORDRO SW16 smartwatch, which I purchased from gearbest.com. It's a 240 by 240 resolution on the display. It's a 2-point touchscreen, captive touchscreen. You've got your power button, you've got your home button, you've got a dual core 1 GHz processor in there, you've got 512 megabytes of RAM, 4 gigabytes of user memory, of which 1.2 gigabytes is available just for your apps, and obviously a little bit more is used for your personal space for putting your files like videos, music, etc. Sports a 3 megapixel camera, which I found quality wasn't too bad. Silicone watch strap, which is reasonably comfortable. It's a contact point charger and data docking station with a magnetic base, charging your smartwatch. GPS, 3G on the 2100 megahertz, which is fine if you're in Australia running on the Optus or the Dodo network. I'm pretty sure most other operators such as Telstra also use this frequency, at least in some parts of Australia. Micro SIM card slot, microphone, speaker, and I think that's pretty much it for the specs. It's basically, this is not just for those of you who are thinking you're going to buy this as a watch to sync with your phone. That is not what it is. It is an Android smartphone in a watch. So don't go buying this watch thinking you're going to be able to push your text message and telephone calls to the device, unless you can do so with an app externally. This is actually just an Android phone, so you have to find an Android to Android push app. The touchscreen itself I found to be really reasonable. The only problem I've had is with the edges, and I find that my thumb is the best digit to use when trying to access things like the menu, which is a swipe from the left hand side. I just seem to struggle to do it with my finger. My thumb seems to make a bit of a difference. The back function, which is swipe from the right, seems to be fine. The home button, it's a good solid feel, same with the power button. This device, even though not advertised anywhere that I could find on the internet, including ORDRO's own website, actually does have vibration. So if you want to set something like an alarm that has a vibration instead of having noise in the morning so you don't disturb your partner while you're wearing it on your wrist in bed, it's a fantastic feature just to have for this device. The touchscreen and the interface is very fluid, very fast. Has a few gimmicky things like the Heart Rate Pro, which is actually going to measure your heart rate through your finger on the camera. Now in high bright situations this does work. I managed to get myself close to the normal resting heart rate that I have, which is around about 65 beats per minute. I think it measured 70. I might have been a bit excited because I'm doing this review. You've got your multiple lock screens and the lock screen app that you can change. I found this was the nicest one. This is the stock default, so this is the one you get when you first get this device. You've got Play Store installed, your normal apps, your sound recorder, your messaging, your phone. One thing I wanted to show you was that this would actually play Minion Rush, which I downloaded externally because there's some APKs that won't download from the Google Play Store, so you're going to have to go and find them externally. Before you do play Minion Rush though, download and install the Sound Manager. It's a free version. It does have adverts, but they're usually hidden. Because this setting here, the third one down, I don't know if you can see that, is your in-app audio volume. Now if you don't have this set lower, you're going to basically be blasting out any video or game that you're playing, and you can't actually change the setting with any physical buttons or with your drop down, which you can only access, actually your drop down you can only access from the home screen. So download Sound Manager. It's a great app. It's a little grey icon, don't know if you can see that, but there's a grey icon with 4 little settings in it. So you've got your in-app setting, phone setting, device and alarm volume, just so you know what kind of icon to look for when you're downloading that. I downloaded a better camera, YouTube, which works fine. You can actually drag your video down, close it, expand it back up again. Play movies and TV will play perfectly, at least with HD in 720. I haven't been able to tell if the HD video I played was 720 or 1080. Netflix seems to have a problem. Don't actually want to go into that. It'll play a little bit and then it'll stop. Now this watch phone does seem to have Wi-Fi display capabilities. I had to install a separate app, as you can see here. I also had to install Force Auto Sync because the standard sync setting is your stock Android setting, which means it will download emails and check them all the time. It will download updates all the time. So the Auto Force Sync I managed to install, which allows you to change this interval to whatever you like. 1 hour is the maximum, 1 minute being, 5 seconds being the quickest. So I've set mine for 30 minutes, sometimes I use it now, just to save battery life. I've also downloaded iMacwear, WinZip, Skype, the usual apps. Skype works fine, WinZip works fine. Adaptive rotation lock, I tried to do that because of one problem. The camera itself, when you're taking photos, will rotate. So you've got your record and your, I'll show you, you've got your record and your shutter button. But when you point the camera up, it rotates. I don't know if you can see that on my camera, but it's rotating. So when you're trying to take a photo of something slightly high, slightly elevated, and you've got the watch on your wrist, it rotates. Other thing to watch out for is your wrist. I mean, you went to wear a smartwatch on your left wrist. When you've got your watch on the wrist, sorry, your hand is going to get in the way of photos. So you've got to keep your hand down like this. The camera I found pretty reasonable. I put some photos and videos of this versus an Alcatel with a similar spec and similar camera, just to show you a comparison between a leading brand or leading Chinese brand versus a brand that I actually personally have never heard of. Just so yeah, you get a comparison of the video and the camera quality. But I found this to be reasonably comparable to one of those Samsung Eternities from several years ago. This is post Android, I think. That had a 3 megapixel camera in it, and I went back and looked at some of my old photos and videos, and the quality of this camera is similar to that of a Samsung from about 5-6 years ago. Now, in terms of power, this device is extremely powerful. I'm going to play Minion Rush, and while that's loading, it doesn't take long to load. While that's loading, I'll just tell you quickly about the battery life. So, using the photo and video capturing and running the device most of a day, using photo and video taking and downloading a few apps, sitting on Wi-Fi, sitting on 3G, I found the device will usually run and last about 6 hours. If you're sitting on your wrist and you're not using it, the battery uses about 4% per hour if you have 3G and Wi-Fi on and 3G and GPRS on but nothing else. So I'm playing this game because I want to show you that this will actually play a low-end smartphone game, which I thought was pretty impressive because it's smooth, it's fluid. I used to run this on several devices with my son. One of the problems I find playing games, if you're interested in doing this or just to show off to your mates, whatever you want to do, is that you accidentally hit the back button when you're sliding. That's it. We're going to go ahead now and do a waterproof test and show you that this device really is waterproof. Now remember, this is something I purchased for myself, so I'm not going to do a full waterproof, shockproof test on this device, but I will do a waterproof test just to show you.
Here is my bucket of water for me to put my watch into. I have also prepared myself with a towel, and I don't think I'm going to have to purposefully show you any more than a quick put in the water, because I don't think any of you would be taking this into the swimming pool and going for a good bathe for half an hour, which is something the watch isn't supposed to do anyway. So all I'm going to do is dunk it. Like I said, it is my watch. I purchased this with my own money. It is my backup phone as well, and I need it to survive. So I'm going to dump it in, pull it out, dry it off, and make sure there's no water inside the speakers. I'm also going to quickly get hold of the screwdriver so that I can open up the back if I need to get water out, which I'll be doing anyway, just to make sure there's no water inside the seal that I need to remove before it becomes a problem, such as getting into the electronics. This is a Chinese product. There are similar models from Italy, which I think are also made in China. So my experience will tell me that there are bad ones, some manufacturing issues. So let me get the screwdriver. I'm just going to step away for a second. Get the screwdriver, and then we'll go ahead and we'll see if this can handle what it says it can handle. Here it is in the box again with me. So, screwdriver out, because I'm going to need to open this very quickly to make sure it stays safe inside. So once again in the box, so I've got the charger, but it's not USB, it's just a adapter. So completely pointless for me because it doesn't have an actual charger, just a USB cable. Here we go. Watch is on and functioning. Vibration, everything working. GPS is working. I tested that earlier today. I'll turn it off. Put it in. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. That will do me. I don't want to test anymore. It was upside down too. I don't know if it's actually IP protected upside down. Dry it off. Whoops, I'm dropping my camera. We'll dry it off very quickly. This was in the water. This is the first time I've done it. I haven't tested it prior to this. I'm just going to tap the water out of the speaker cover there. Now, with most waterproof phones, what I found is that sometimes the speaker will suffer a little bit for a few hours while it's drying out. I'm just carefully getting my nice Sheridan towel in there because it's got some good fluffy bits of cotton to get into those gaps and hopefully dry it nicely. So that's drying nicely. And just tap the microphone port, make sure that there's no water in your microphone port, which it looks like there might be a bubble in there. Don't go sticking any objects, sharp objects in here and then testing it, because they have little silicone seals which if you perforate them, that's when you're going to get waterlogged in your device. So now this is supposed to be shockproof, waterproof, dustproof. I'm going to check my SIM card slot as well before I open up the back. There's definitely water coming into the screw points there. If you're going to take screws out, do it somewhere where it can land and it won't bounce, like here. Now I know this cover is like a hard-ish rubber-backed piece, so I know that it should have that waterproof protection. So there's no water in there. That's a good start. Let's dry the water away that is there. Dry the plate and put the plate back in. So we know that we're safe here. So far this is looking like a very well designed product, because when I opened up my waterproof phone, which is IP68, and the previous IP68 model, I had a waterlog in there as if it was only an IP5 or 6.5 water splash only. Now this is the screw case I was telling you about and how difficult it can be to open it. I've already just lost a screw into my hand there from it dropping because it's fiddly. You've got very tight straps holding the watch together. I'm going to take this off and look inside. There is no water in there whatsoever. There's a couple of droplets have just gone down the edge. Like, you can't see it on the camera. It is right in between the metal where the plate was sitting. So I'm going to go ahead and dry this plate just to make sure that no water gets pushed into the phone when I put it back on. I've just lost another screw there. So easy to lose these screws. There it is. So let's just check. Let's put this back on. Now when you put this back on, you've got some pins here. You need to push the pins down into the hole just over the edge of the battery first, so it slides down and then you push it across, because when you push it across it pushes the silicone into place. I don't know if you can see that there, but the silicone is moving inwards when I let go of it and take resistance away. So because this has a little edge, you need to use that to push the silicone into place, otherwise you might be jeopardizing your waterproof ability of the smartwatch. Let's do that up. Remember, when you're doing up screws, like any mechanic, good mechanic will tell you, or any good engineer will tell you, you always tighten up the screws opposite. Same with wheel nuts. You want to have an even surface area of pressure. Once you've tightened them all up, then you can go around and just gently, one by one, make sure that they're tight, but not too tight. Okay, let's see if the watch turns on. There we go. Let's check the speaker works. The vibration's working. Just did then. Let's put Minion Rush on. Let's see if it comes up and plays with the speaker in good working order, because it's the thing that usually gets affected. It will usually come right. But no water got in through the buttons as far as I can tell. No water got in through the back plate. No water got in through the SIM card slot. There doesn't seem to be, and the speaker is working. Look at that. There doesn't seem to be any water in your microphone slot either. Let's do a recording and just test that my voice comes through clear with the built-in recorder. I haven't used this app yet. Test, test, 1, 2. Don't know if you can hear that, but I can hear that clearly. That was beautiful. So I'm happy with that. I'm happy with my review. Thank you all so much for watching. Please have a quick look at the video and the photo test that I will put on the end of this video for the watch versus the Alcatel Pixie 3 4.0, which has exactly the same specs as this watch model if you just decided to skip ahead. These two have exactly the same processor, same size camera, or very close spec camera. I think this is either a 2 or a 3 and this is a 3. Same graphics, same cores, and I think clocked to the same frequency. One other thing I would like to try and do with this smartwatch, but I'm scared to do because I don't know how to get back into the reset to factory settings, is to change it over to the Android runtime environment, which I know I can do on this device. It's the same CPU, same specs, so hopefully you can do it on the watch, but it all depends also on the manufacturer's ability to have Android runtime on here as well. Because if you put Android runtime on here rather than the Dalvik setting, should be in your settings somewhere, your watch will have slightly larger apps when they're installed, but they will boot faster, which can be a dramatic increase in performance for people who just want their apps to open and close quickly and aren't using them to, using them for a long period of time. So it will improve the performance rate of the watch slightly, and it is the now common runtime environment for Android 4.4 upwards to be using. So that will be my next thing to write down on the bottom of YouTube.
This is a test video of the Alcatel. I'll do a bit of movement and then I'll stay still. And next up, the
ORDRO SW16 video versus the Atkins. Let's do a close up front. I think already I can see a better quality on this tiny screen. Bit of movement. And I'll stop there.
Okay, thank you for watching. Remember to check out the link to my other review on gearbase.com for a few other points about the device. And my name is Mark, this has been Mark Reviews.